One Question is designed to give subscribers valuable insights on how executive leaders in college athletics think about key issues on their respective campuses, in their departments, or within their leagues and conferences.
Greetings, this is Ty Brown and welcome to One Question, where we highlight executive leaders in college athletics. Our guest today is Jessica Gelman. Jessica is the CEO of KAGR, which is the Kraft Analytics Group. Greetings, Jessica. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, Jessica, your background is kind of extensive. You're a former Harvard basketball player, winning Ivy League titles and a couple of Hall of Fames there for Kraft. The services provided are data management, advanced analytics, strategic marketing, essentially having what I was told once, a one-on-one conversation with the customer through data, right? You served on a number of NFL committees in terms of data management and fan engagement. You started the Sloan Sports Analytics Conference, and you've been in sport for 17 years there with clients at KAGR, such as the NFL, Mississippi State, among others. I guess initially the question I'd like to know is what services does Kraft Analytics Group provide to its clients?
Well, I'm thrilled to be on the show, so thank you for having me, especially as a one-time D1 college athlete. I believe very firmly in moving the college athletic space forward. But at KAGR, our goal overall is to help move the entire sports industry forward in the acceptance and use of data. To do that, we really have two parts of our offerings. So the first is an actual technology platform, which integrates data from disparate systems, both marketing and business operations. So the business operations would be like ticketing or point of sale for food and beverage or retail, into a clean, trusted, and standardized platform that serves as a single source of information and truth to make informed business decisions. What really differentiates us on our tech platform side is that we have pre-built visualizations and advanced machine learning analytics and data science embedded into our visualizations. So we're trying and succeeding in making it easy to get to the great information. There's so much data out there that it can be daunting at times to know where to focus your energy. So that's the technology side of our business. We, as you alluded to, work with the New Jersey Devils, the Philadelphia 76ers. We've built a league-wide platform for the NFL that every team has access to dashboards and a variety of analytic models. The other part of our offering is strategic consulting services. So when we first spun out of Kraft Sports and Entertainment 3.5 years ago, we identified and understood that people are in various places, sports organizations and college athletics, on their journey to making data an asset. So we will come in and help people think about how to move forward using data, whether that be using data to be more informed about new products that they want to innovate on and helping them think about the data that they might need to create to justify doing something, or helping them think through the technologies that they need to bring in to run their business better. Or it could be as simple as helping with what is the right organizational structure in order to create an analytics and data-focused organization. So that's a very high level of what we do. I think the other component that's very unique is that we love the tough challenges and the business cases that others walk away from. We, having been on the other side, not just with the technology and the consulting side, but needing to drive business transformation for many years at Kraft Sports and Entertainment and the Patriots, really understanding how to take data and drive it forward to better engage the fans and improve the underlying business revenues.
Well, okay, Jessica, so it sounds like the three things you mentioned what KAGR does is there's technology, there's consulting, but then there's also, because of your understanding of the sports industry and data, when people are ready to use data, they may buy the technology or they may bring in consultants, but what you do is help them understand the impact of the data and how to use the technology and the knowledge that they have just brought in. Is that correct?
Yes. I mean, that's the most important thing, for sure. If you're going to invest in a technology, you need to make sure you have people who understand how to use it and are comfortable with it, but also can take the data and understanding what customers are doing and go one step further. So if you know a customer is not opening emails, continuing to send them emails is not effective to get them to engage. And if people are not attending games, what types of activities or amenities can you offer to them to encourage them to come? So we call it the so what, but that so what element of how do you take the information to actually move the business forward is an area that we're very much client focused, and we want to help people go from just having the data and the information and the analytics to driving the business. And that's where we've seen a tremendous amount of success, even in the work that we've done with Mississippi State, and I'm happy to speak more to that if that would be helpful.
Right, I'll get to that shortly. So there's a step before that, though, right? There's a step where people leading an organization come to the realization that they may need to get into and use data in the first place before they buy technology, before they go out and bring consultants. 17 years there with Kraft. How do people evolve to the point where they realize this is important?
The process today is obviously very different than the process that I went through 17 years ago. How we like to think about it is the most important thing is understanding what your customers and your fans actually want. At the end of the day, you're creating an experience for them. And there's really two ways to get that type of information. One is talking to them. That's the qualitative information that you might get from surveys. People have been doing that for a long time, but also making it standardized and consistent. So you're not just having a survey after a game where you lost or a game when you won. It's consistent throughout the course of a year. The second is this quantitative behavioral-based data that what we're talking about. And often people feel very comfortable with their gut, but there are going to be often things that you just can't see or know. And there's been so many examples in sports, obviously starting with Moneyball in the book that Michael Lewis wrote many, many years ago, that identified a single piece of information that completely changed the way that people evaluated talent. Those same types of concepts exist on the business side of sports. And as more data has become available over the past really 12 to 13 years, we were unable to do any kind of real personalization in terms of the emails that you would receive or what you might be targeted on from a social media perspective. But there are huge businesses that are being built on this. And so as folks who are engaging people at the most exciting and passionate part of their life, which is supporting their college or supporting their favorite local sports team, having information to create a better experience is really the most important element of what anyone in the sports industry wants and needs to do, is there's a reason they're called fans. It's fandom. They love it. So how do you continue to create and evolve and make it a better experience? And I think anyone who is in an executive role or a senior role within athletics in the college space understands that knowing their customer, data is a form of knowing their customer, is a differentiator, and will ensure that those fans and the donors continue to come back and be involved with the school.
Right, and you talk about college athletics and the value that analytics can provide to college athletics. In your experience, how have you seen athletics successfully being used by people in college athletics? I think you mentioned Mississippi State as one of your clients. Talk about how either they use or what you've seen outside of just in the college athletics industry, period, in terms of athletics and using it to help make a successful organization.
There's a lot of great examples. Mississippi State is certainly at the forefront, and it's great to see what they've been doing. We're very happy to support them. I have my cowbell in my office.
Right.
But the key thing, what is so interesting and unique about college sports, is that you have these multiple teams that many fans might be supporting. So it can be football and basketball and baseball, and it can be men's and women's sports. And there's that's something that is truly unique to college sports, identifying people who overlap across and attending or supporting in various forms sports. And that is one area where Mississippi State has really excelled, which is where folks might be a fan of football and they are trying to engage them with baseball. And that's from that kind of cross-segmentation and cross-marketing analysis. But more than that, one of the things that we created for Mississippi State was a data visualization of their football stadium that allowed them to see a variety of pieces of data: attendance, obviously what people were paying, even their responses to surveys, not the actual responses, but whether or not they took them and where they might have had issues, so they can see how people are engaging and feeling about their game day experience. What Mississippi State did a couple years ago is, when they had this information, they used that to make changes in pricing, both increasing and decreasing, to 84% of their stadium, which is just massive. So they saw where people were over-indexing or under-indexing. And what I think is very unique, and what we try to do, especially for athletic directors, is having that data visualization simplifies the storytelling and provides the appropriate context to get buy-in. The end result for Mississippi State is that they ultimately increased the overall ticketing revenue by close to 7%, and they renewed 10% higher because they were using data to inform their decisions, and they were looking at the actual fan behavior to make sure that the right fans were receiving the right amenities based on how long they'd been, how long they had been a season ticket member, where else they might be engaging across the athletic department and other events. So it was great to see how they took the data that we integrated for them and then presented in a form that was easily digestible to gain buy-in and have impact.
Right. You mentioned that data analytics could also benefit college athletics, or colleges, period, in terms of development and fundraising. I wonder, have you seen it used in the crossover between campus advancement and athletics development in terms of using data and analytics to improve that, as well as the tie into marketing and sales, and like you said, Mississippi State with the data visualization of the stadium?
Honestly, this is one of the biggest challenges in college sports, which is that development often sits outside of the athletic department. And so this really important and critical information is not always accessible to athletic departments. Some have access to it and some do not. Mississippi State, in this case, does. But that is a real challenge that needs to talks about the importance of the partnering between the presidents of the universities and the athletic directors to move forward, because it's a very significant area of focus for us, is not only around the data access, which is what our platform obviously does, but identifying where data needs to be created. And that connecting of the development part of the university with how people are engaging, one of the ways is through athletics, others could be through arts. But it's very critical to get that overarching view of a supporter of the university. So I guess my answer to you is that it kind of depends on the school, but it is a huge area of opportunity.
All right, which ties into, I hear a lot of people who run development for either universities or for athletics say that relationship between campus advancement and athletics development is one of the most crucial that can possibly help everybody be successful. And what you're saying is this data analytics can be a piece to help both of them together. Thinking about athletics and athletics directors, earlier I asked a question about when does an organization realize, or have you seen when an organization realizes that data can be beneficial to them? What are some of the challenges in relaying the value of data analytics and the services it can provide to some athletic directors in college? Because it's my understanding that this is not widely regarded across the board within the college athletics industry.
Yes, a big challenge is that athletic departments are under-resourced. And so in terms of, as you're thinking about engaging your donors and your fans, this might not be the first idea for how to invest. Where we are very focused on is how technology and data can help automate processes and give people and create efficiency and give folks who work within the athletic department more time. And Stanford's a great example. Tommy Gray actually, he worked with me at Kraft Sports and Entertainment, and he's been someone I've mentored for a long time. And so I love how he's pushing the envelope and moving things forward over there. But I do think that getting buy-in can be challenging for a couple of different reasons. First and foremost, the quality of the data has not been an area of focus. So often, for example, with students, the tickets aren't necessarily scanned. And helping people to understand how valuable that information can be in terms of knowing how many people are actually at a game or attending a game is very critical to manage the food that you have in your stands, just as a very simple example. The other part that makes what is happening with the interest in data is just there's so much data. There is more data created every 2 years than it has ever existed in the history of the available data that's out there, because you have so much more that is being tracked. And so that can be incredibly daunting, where what we're trying to do and have done is what are the most critical pieces of information, what might you need down the road, but because we have this deep spike in the sports industry, we know most importantly how to use that data and information to drive results and impact. And so for an athletic director, if they can think through and make the investment and have the right, and it doesn't need to be a lot of people, 1 or 2 people doing some analytics around who to prioritize for outreach or what products might really be of interest to their fans, they're going to drive a lot more engagement, likely more donations, and certainly more attendance at the various events that they have.
Right. I imagine that the shift in thought, right, it's much bigger than just buying scanners for the gates.
Right.
It's like you probably have to sell them on, hey, we need to change our whole philosophy here. Everything is a data point, but there's a whole apparatus in terms of being able to gather the data and process the data. I wonder the athletic directors who have bought into it, I wonder what their thought process, like when you guys either were approached by or approached Mississippi State, how did they approach you and tell you they were ready for this type of thing? Or was there somebody in their department that said, hey, let's start looking at this?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. It's certainly the result of usually when there's significant changes that are occurring. So for Mississippi State, they had a new baseball venue that they were looking to build. And so there was an immediate need to have better insights and be more informed. And at the same time, Dak Prescott had just graduated. And so where they had this significant demand for many years, the art of selling and the science behind it needed to be more enthused. Mississippi State is incredibly forward-thinking. We really enjoy working with them. And the fact that they had the foresight to do this 3 years ago is really impressive. And my hope and expectations is that as athletic directors understand and can start to think about the smaller investments and how it's going to invest, I think you don't need to do everything at once. Getting the quick wins with it doesn't even need to be tickets. It can be, it's really about engagement. That's the most important thing, and that I think so much of it is challenged because of that divide on the development side and for the athletic departments themselves. That's almost needs to be addressed at the same time. So you need this broader buy-in from the overall university.
Mm-hmm. That would be a start, right? At a university that doesn't have that. But when fans come to the games, I guess another starting point could be the philosophy of making sure you understand who is coming to your games type situation.
Well, yes, if you know who's coming to the game and with what regularity, it certainly gives an indication of their interest in the school, and that can help prioritize that they're someone to consider for donations.
Exactly. One question, I heard you speak one time. Actually, it was at the Sloan Analytics Conference. And I think
I love that conference.
I think the question was something about attendance, right? And you mentioned something about the Pittsburgh Steelers or something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but the concern of attendance across the board in professional sports and college athletics, because people can sit at home and watch 15 different screens and get everything they need at different angles, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Where are you guys on that? And I imagine just the nature of the business you're doing is probably addressing some of the attendance issues across the board.
Well, first, there's nothing like attending a live sporting event. The energy is incredible. What we're actually seeing today is more avenues and opportunities to get tickets, in part because of the secondary market. As for the clients that we work with, where we are seeing them really meaningfully use the analytics is where they are identifying potential areas or challenges with attendance, or also laying on, again, the survey feedback about or customer service calls that they might be getting with respect to, maybe it could be the sound system is out in their section or where they sit. But they're using that information to then go and focus on improving the fan experience in that area. So they might create a more open congregating area, or they might create a new amenity that's going to overall enhance the fan experience. And so as I kind of have said a few times, the most important thing is about creating the best customer experience or fan experience at the game, and data can certainly provide a tremendous amount of insights as to where you might be having problems, and then you can dig deeper as to the why. Why are people not attending or going to this location? How can we make it better? And I think that's where we're gonna really see change. There is so many offerings and so many different ways that people can be spending their time and creating the best possible experience. I think what we will increasingly see is this convergence of the in-game experience with elements of the at-home experience when you're at the games. And that's really the future of where we're going for colleges, and the ongoing investment and the cost of that investment to upgrade stadiums and venues is significant, and it's happening on a very consistent basis.
Right. It's interesting you say that. To every experience option people have may be exciting to them, but it's key to understand why they choose one experience over the other. I'll ask this final question of you, Jessica. In a recent interview, I think it was a data person, Kat Frederick at Ticketmaster, she said that the human relations aspect is as important to one's analytics capacity for a data person who is pursuing a leadership position. And it seems like you fit that mold there, being a leader, a CEO there at KAGR. What are your thoughts on leadership and data analytics?
Well, I have two thoughts on that. The first is around what we call EQ, which is emotional intelligence. We've talked a little bit about is I was a former D1 college point guard, and so much of my role at that time was around setting my teammates up to be successful, understanding their strengths and weaknesses. And that is very much a huge part of what my role is today as a CEO of KAGR. And leadership is so much about helping people be their best and giving them the appropriate practice, potentially in the office setting, so that when they do need to present to clients or more broadly, that they have confidence in the ability to do that. And so, and the other component of that, from an EQ perspective, and again, tying it with athletics, which I think is important, is challenging people to be more, and giving and receiving feedback, frankly, is very important. So there is a very analytic element to what I'm talking about, which is being able to understand people's strengths and weaknesses, but that human emotional intelligence and how to support and grow people is really critical. So combining those two is just the most important element to be a leader in the space. The second kind of thought there, I think your underlying question is around using data to make decisions. And data is just one piece of the tool set that all of us have to identify trends or concepts. We have to have that broader context. So that concept of gut, that is your mind using data to say, this is what I think. Sometimes we know there are biases, unconscious biases, that we can miss. And that's where the information and data can help prioritize and focus and ensure that we have all of the information at our disposal to make really informed decisions. And that is what really drives leadership, in my opinion.
Right. Well, this has been an excellent conversation, Jessica. I really appreciate you giving us the insight on what you do there at KAGR and really just analytics, sports, and specifically college athletics in general. Thank you very much for joining us here on One Question.
Thank you.
That was Jessica Gelman. She is the CEO of KAGR, which is Kraft Analytics Group. And of course, this is Ty Brown with One Question. And keep in mind, the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of. And as always, be better tomorrow than you are today. This episode of One Question is produced by Spaze Media Group, solving problems using creative leadership.